Hey, good morning again. Here talking with Andy from Six Frog. Once again, good morning, Andy.
Hey, Matt.
Hey, following on from our last video where we're talking about testimonials, which is really, really interesting. Wanted to talk about something that kind of goes alongside that and is involved at that stage in a contract, and I want to talk about the scary topic, or scary for some, of contracts, renewal. And I know, Andy, this isn't a phrase that you're fond of, but I thought it'd be a good topic for us to talk about.
Yeah, I'm not enamoured by the title contract renewal, but it is the thing that most people will understand. What I would like to see is people working on phase 2 or phase 3 and working with agile contracts to achieve that. Clearly, outside of IR35, another conversation, and it's all semantics, which may be irrelevant to a lot of people. But contract renewal is potentially quite a difficult one. What tips do you have?
Yeah, it is, and again, we're talking about outside IR35 contracts here. For many contractors, though, it can be a scary thing. You get a 3-month, 6-month contract, whatever it will be, and as you're approaching the end of that engagement, you'll be waiting to see if it renews or not. And quite often what can happen is clients can say, oh, yeah, we really like the work that you're doing. It's probably going to renew. We think we've got some more work for you to do. We'd like you to look at this next, kind of thing. And yeah, it should be fine. And you get closer and closer to that last day of the contract, and the conversations are still happening, but you're not involved in any of those conversations, really. And most contracts renew on the last minute of the last hour on the last day of the contract. And as a contractor, you just get yourself, into more of a anxious state with every hour and day that passes as that deadline approaches. And it's not a nice experience. It's a very stressful experience, of knowing whether you're going to get paid next week or not, ultimately.
I mean, this is one of the reasons why I suggest that people work to a budget rather than a specific end date. Because I think then you tie the budget into the amount of work, you sign it off, and you deliver the work by the drop date. So it's obvious what you're working towards, and that the piece of work has completed at that stage.
It is, isn't it? And I think contractors can often be scared of that, because I think, well, if there is this certainty, if they provide this certainty, then does that increase the chances of the work finishing earlier or there being less work, rather than just rolling on. But I think the trouble with letting things roll on like that is that over time your value and perceived value diminishes. So I'm with you on this one. I would say, actually, no, as a contractor, you should be working to known outcomes, discrete pieces of work, and that actually puts you in a much stronger position to line up the next bit of work from that client, because you're bringing the client into your world, into your processes.
Yeah, I think as well, as we talked about in the last video, testimonials, and we'll put a link in below for everybody, but if you're asking for a testimonial towards a date that a piece of work has gone well, just tie that in. The best thing I've seen, and I will mention the worst thing I've seen as well, but the best thing I've seen is when I've had contractors working with me and they've said, hey, the work's going really well. My company has a policy of 2 weeks before we wrap up of just making sure you're happy with everything. And that was how they started it, with exactly that phrase. I want to make sure you're happy with everything. They said, and once we've done that,
nice,
we can look at if there are any other pieces of work that we can recommend, go ahead after this. So it became a recommendation. That came with a fee uplift as well, which I think is great for the supplier.
Yeah.
If the client is aware of that, then they may want to push back and say, look, we're happy with you at this quality level and this pricing level, but at least you've asked. And I felt that was a really good way of going about it. It gave me time to work out if we wanted to allocate more budget. It gave me time to work out how the plan was going to work. And the main bit was that contract was working directly for me. So the call about the contract renewal wasn't from an agency. It wasn't from a recruiter who I haven't heard from. As we all know, you hear from a recruiter when there's some work to do and when there's some work to renew, and that's probably about it. Or maybe there's a beer evening or something, insignificant that they want you to attend. But the way that the contractor managed me was lovely, and actually that increased their value because it felt like they were in control of the piece of work, the program, and so on, which actually gave me less stress. It was great. So, and I did promise an example.
They're taking ownership of it, aren't they?
Precisely. Worst example: somebody who worked with me said to me, "Oh, wait till the last day. Tell me day rate's gone up. Strong arm them. Tell them you've got another project to go to and you need to know by 5 p.m. And you just think, that's the best strategy if you want to piss someone off. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. I can't see that working well. And I know you mentioned day rate and the uplift and those kind of things. And I think, as we talked about before, I would, favour, again, the value is defined, the outcomes are defined. You can work to scopes, and yes, you can build in retainers and other things in there, but I think I would caution people against working to that day rates. But even if that is a position they find themselves in, I think you still have to take ownership, control over that process. Like you say, it's my policy, it's my process that 2 weeks before, this is what we do. We do this kind of review. As you know, I offer a warranty with my work that I do anyway, which is something that you should definitely be doing, and probably a topic for another day. But it should all fit in with that process that you have that happens towards the end, at the end, and after the end of a given piece of work.
And I'd add as well, even if you're working through an agency and there are various clauses preventing you from talking about the fees and rates and da-da-da, still sit down with the client, ask them how it's going, ask for a testimonial, and say, obviously we're both aware, drop date of the project is in 10 days' time. I've really loved working here. You almost don't have to ask for extra work if you just give them that. They know what you're asking.
No, absolutely. But you should, as we talked about in the testimonial video, you should work with them to get clarity on the value that was delivered, how that experience was, what went well, what you can improve as well, how could you have added extra value, etc. It's all useful learning, whether you're working direct or working via an agency, no matter how that that engagement came about.
So next time, I think we're going to look at the 7 deadly sins in contracting, which is one that's been in the pipeline for a while, but I'm quite excited about that. I'm also quite interested to look at some of the reading that I've done over a few years. There are some great books out there, Traction, Rebel Ideas, Interim Revolution, The Freelance Way, The Freelance Bible. There's a whole load of pieces of work there that we've got on our website. But put in the comments what you'd like us to discuss. Let us know what's happening in your world, and we'll bring it up next time.
Yeah, please do, and look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Awesome.
Bye.
I felt like we were done.